Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Staci Neustadt, a speech language pathologist with Making Sense of Autism, and I'm here with Susan Golubock, our founder, an autistic retired occupational therapist, and the person who completely transformed the way I understand autism. If you're an SLP trying to move toward neuro-affirming practice without knowing what to actually put in place of the old stuff, this video is what you've been looking for. If traditional social communication skills and interventions feel off, this conversation is for you. The question I hear often from SLPs making this shift is, what should I do instead? That's exactly what we're going to work through today. Traditional social skills training assumes there's one correct way to communicate, and that autistic individuals are the ones who need to be corrected or the ones that are doing it wrong. Be sure to stay until the end because we have a tip that I guarantee you didn't think about because we were never taught that this foundation skill is essential in social communication. If you missed our conversation last week about what do you do if your client or student says, I don't want friends, be sure to check out that video. When we treat communication differences as deficits, we're not describing reality. We're describing an imbalance. So once you drop the deficit mindset, you need something to replace it. And the answer isn't really a single curriculum, it's a set of priorities. So, Sue, what is the first step therapists need to take when they're putting aside the old social skills of teaching turn taking, teaching, talking about a non-preferred topic, teaching eye contact?
Most important thing to do, perspective taking. Only I'm asking you to do perspective taking. Try taking the perspective of the individual you're working with. Find out what their perspective is, what it is they want to engage in, how they are comfortable engaging in social communication and interactions. Find out what they need from you to feel comfortable and safe. I may not always understand, but I'm listening. Tell me or show me if you don't have the words. What is it you like to talk about? Special interest, obviously, is going to be at the top of the list. But then, now what do I do when I don't have an interest in that? Now you're starting to introduce your perspective to them. Model what you want from them. In other words, I'm going to listen to your perspective, what you're interested, but then you have to flip and say, well, yeah, but I have a perspective too. And wow, I don't know anything about dinosaurs. You gave me a little bit is okay, but this much, I'm overwhelmed. Well, now the artist is going to know what it feels like to be overwhelmed because they get overwhelmed. You're giving me all these words because they know what it feels like to be overwhelmed. Typical people feel that way too, but they don't advocate for themselves.
That is a complete just flip in what we usually do. Usually we pick a topic and then expect the autistic individual to join in our topic and have circles of conversation, which I'm so guilty of creating those types of goals. But instead, listening to each other, we are so guilty of making it one-sided. I love that idea of what do you do when they info dump and share too much information on the topic and you're like, whoa, that's too much. Or, you know what, that's your special interest, but I don't like it to talk about it, which this happens sometimes with my clients or students who have the preferred topic of talking about death or maybe dark things or killing, those voodoo topics. And it doesn't mean that they're violent people. That is just their special interest. I follow a mortician that's autistic on Instagram, which is super cool to hear her perspective on her special interest. But that's what I encourage my clients to do is like, hey, that's not a topic I'm very interested in, but I know I follow this person on YouTube or Instagram who loves that topic. There are other people that like it. And that is a great way to think about how many skills you're teaching in that moment, that everyone might have a different perspective. Hey, we don't share this topic, but we might share another topic of interest. And whoa, what does that feel like when we get overwhelmed when someone's talking about something that we're not interested in? And what do we do in that moment to teach self-advocacy? So much just by shifting that one idea. The second skill that we can put in place is teaching our clients about communication differences. Now, I know, Sue, you and I have created a lot of goals around this idea of communication differences. I know I know for me, when I first thought about that, I was overwhelmed. I was like, I don't even know where to start with this. So I had to break it down myself that it's not like a hierarchy, but really a genuine variation between people, and helping my clients identify, do you process better with direct language? Do you need transition time before a topic changes? Do you communicate differently in low demand versus high demand environments? What are some other kind of ideas that we should be thinking about if we're helping even an individual and a therapist identify communication differences? Sue, I know you lead an adult group. What are some different preferences or different communication styles that you maybe see with autistic adults, or maybe they've shared?
You have to look at what works for them in terms of communication, because many of us have difficulty with words alone. They come too fast. We can be overwhelmed. We don't have the time to process those words. I know even at the adult support group, if we have a topic of discussion, I always have it in print form, i.e., it's visually there. The words are there. Now, certainly for some, even the written words can be a little overwhelming. So then you may need visuals. I have done slides where I use images, and the image triggers in their mind, oh, yeah, this is what we're talking about. It helps them keep on task of what the subject matter is all about, so that it makes it easier for them to process the words. We have explored the fact that we really need to be able to see the individual to understand what they're saying. At least many of us lip read, and to help us decipher the words that they're saying. Again, you're looking at multiple ways of communication, not just verbal. We've also gotten into things like body language or tone of voice. If someone feels passionate about something, their voice may go up multiple levels, their volume may go up multiple levels, and the group around us is all calm down, because you're overwhelming us just with the intensity. Not that you're being angry, but that you're triggering an emotional response in us that feels uncomfortable. So we will help that person recognize, we need you to calm down.
I love that example because communication is a two-way negotiation. What do I need to do to keep this whole conversation in balance? What is my preference? It's really accommodating for each person. I love all of those examples because those are those soft skills we don't think about. And that's what I love about our neuro strength based social communication assessments, because one includes that question of, do you advocate for yourself if somebody is speaking too loudly? And then in our soft skills assessment, we look at how they process information and their awareness of themselves in social communication situations. So both of those assessments really discover what is a strength in those areas, what is the potential strength they're wanting to learn the skill, and what are the barriers that are getting in the way. This channel that we have here is where neuro-affirming SLPs come when they're ready to rethink everything they were trained to do. So if you've enjoyed and what we've talked about so far has resonated, be sure to hit subscribe. Knowing your communication style is one piece, but there's also a layer underneath that most SLP sessions never even touch, and it might be the most important one. A child who can recite 5 emotion faces, but has no idea what's happening in their own body and isn't self-aware, they've just memorized a performance. Self-awareness really starts internally, not socially. So before a client can even navigate a conversation, they need to access their own experience. Sue, answer this most important question. What would speech therapists see in the individual to know, hey, I have to start with body awareness instead of social?
I'll tell you the best clue is to watch their body language. Because when we have such low muscle tone, we're going to seem expressionless. We're not going to gesture. We're not going to move our body. Our body's going to be very, very relaxed. And yet, we're not communicating with our body language. That's often misinterpreted by other people as we're not interested, we're not paying attention. People read other people's body language all the time subconsciously. Bring it to the conscious level of becoming aware of how you express body language. The autistic that keeps moving all the time and they're gesturing all the time and they're looking around and they're constantly moving. What message are they sending through their body? Well, the only way they experience their body is when it is in motion and the muscles are contracting. So it gives them feedback. Now we have to remember if that's the messages our body is giving us, either we're motionless or we're animated, then we kind of expect to see that in you, which is why we don't read your body language because your body language is much more subtle. It's just a difference in awareness between the nonverbal communication that's being expressed. It's okay to be curious to say, well, I see you sitting there very quietly. It seems to me that maybe, is this boring? This is how I would think that the message you're sending with your body is that it's boring, you're not very excited about it, or maybe your body is just so relaxed, it's hard for you to get started talking. And that's why you're not talking much, because it's hard for you to get started, and I don't give you enough time to get energized to talk. And so, therefore, when I just sit there and I become impatient, I keep talking and I'm talking too much. Is that right? Or for the one that's all animated and all over the place, again, you can say, I interpret that as you're so excited about everything that you're saying, and it overwhelms me. In other words, give them feedback on how their body is communicating to you. And if they want to change how their body is communicating, they have to become aware that their body's doing these things. And then you can talk about alternatives, what your body might do to send a better message to other people. Or if you just can't help it, your body is like this, let people know. Excuse me if I move around too much, but my body just says I have to. I am not trying to overwhelm you. I am not trying to do this. I'm aware.
And this is something that we were not taught, but it has such an impact on social communication. This is where your session starts to feel genuinely different because you're building something, not just rehearsing social scripts of back and forth, because that's usually where we start. But like Sue just talked about, if somebody is so overstimulating to the other person, they can't even pay attention, or if they're so stoic that the other person thinks the autistic individual isn't interested, that conversation's not going to go well. I have a client who is building this self-awareness, and you can see where the barrier is, and it creates miscommunication because when she's upset, she will just shut down and not talk to anyone. And when people shut down and they won't talk to you, what do you think? You think they're mad at you. But with autistic individuals, that shutdown could be for so many different reasons. And that's where that miscommunication happens. It does take vulnerability, but that self advocacy of, hey, if you see me shut down, that doesn't mean I'm mad at you. I'm having a moment, and maybe I'll use this gesture to let you know. Then there's no communication breakdown. But all of this starts with that self awareness, body awareness, emotional awareness. This is super important, but we weren't taught about these skills. Self awareness really creates the conditions for the next skill. And this changes how your clients move through every room they walk into for the rest of their lives. If your client only navigates social situations when an adult is managing the environment for them, you haven't built a skill. You've just built dependency. Everything in this video lives or dies with one thing: the words that you use when you explain the shift to families and teams you work with. So the frame that you bring into a session, into a meeting, the way you talk about kids, their barriers, their strengths, it's the most powerful thing that you carry. And you now have that language from a frame that actually serves your clients. For more information like this, be sure to subscribe and check out our other videos that we release each week. Thank you for being here.